And we're back doing our last session here for the week. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web, and your host Jeremiah Fox with my guest Lisa Gus. So we just got the pleasure of her explanation of blockchain, and she put it into 5-year-old terms for me by talking about buying and selling fish, which makes sense to me. And what did you just say? So we were talking on the break. We were talking about how literally blockchain could replace all the existing forms of technology and information distribution. We're talking about Amazon, we're talking about Google and all the big things, but you had just said, you're like, I don't want to tear Rome down in a day.
Well, yeah,
what's great about your
people are going to be,
they're going to freak out.
They actually,
I was just saying, like, I just figured out Facebook. Now you're going to change it. So your particular technology will integrate, and it would be more of a gradual process.
Yeah, so we can integrate and adjust to the existing systems. And then, eventually, if you want to move away, then you already have the groundwork set up for it. And in fact, it's a good thing, because right now we're talking to the Department of Homeland Security, and they have introduced, well, no, not they, but they have actually paid for the production of specifically identifiers that allow you to maintain your identity throughout all this blockchains.
That'd be great. That'd be great. So what pushed you into this? I mean, you said some interesting things on LinkedIn that really got me fired up. We were talking about specifically servicing female entrepreneurs and minority entrepreneurs who have the biggest hill. Like, it's hard enough to be an entrepreneur and set out on your own. But you talked a bit about depression and the suicide rate in regards to that. What pushed you in that direction? I mean, you had some personal experiences, I'm assuming.
I did.
You just mentioned. Well, tell everybody what you've got going on. You're the CEO now of
Knish, which is the blockchain company. But I'm also the managing partner of VeeSee, and it's actually a nonprofit created out of my own experiences. And I think in a way, that's how most nonprofits need to be created, because unless you have a story and unless you're passionate about it, it's just going to be work.
Yeah.
And so I have done work with the UN, as I mentioned, and with companies like Deering and Seafood Commons, which are all, impact centric. And that's really what our ledger is about impact. But until something impacted me personally, I never really got passionate about how I can use the technology beyond just producing it.
Right.
And that was actually having my trust broken by someone I deeply, deeply respected and had faith in. And that person, and I guess 2 people, actually brought home to me just how difficult it is to find faith and support in an entrepreneurial community, because you really are alone. And unless you know whom to trust, and that actually gets back to the reputation and the blockchain space, how do you know you're trusting the right person? You can trust everybody, but can you trust one person? And especially when you're looking for that one person who's going to support you, who's going to give you money, who's going to give you, open up their Rolodex for you. How do you actually decide if that's the person is worthy of your trust? And turns out I made a really, really spectacularly bad decision. And I'm actually lucky I did that, because now I know I can help other people.
No, I had this really great conversation with a friend of mine who's also been a guest on the show. And she went to a Tony Robbins seminar and just like came back a different person and talked to me so much about it. It literally changed my life. And we were just having a laugh about, I had just like closed and sold a business at the time. And it wasn't, I didn't really want to, but it was just a situation that had to happen. And we were just talking about failure and mistakes and really facing that. And she's the type of person that's like, you just got to face it head on. She owns the martial arts school that I train and teach at. And she's just like, take those battles head on. But she said something that really just made us both laugh. She said, what successful CEO has not fucked up a company? Like it's like a stripe you got to get. You don't just walk into there and you're like, you got your CEO degree and you're golden after that. You have to weather some battles and suffered some losses, I think, to really get to the point where you're good at it. Where you have something to offer the world, because it's through what person doesn't suffer similar kind of losses in a way, what might not be your own company, but everybody has failures and losses, and that resilience is what what we all kind of share. There's some connection on that level, right?
Well, you actually are very right about that. And in fact, I'll be addressing the UK House of Lords specifically on April 30th.
Yeah, you get around, man. So who did you have a meeting with this morning again? You were with UNICEF this morning?
Yes.
As it was great. Like we were emailing back and forth, and she said, I'd love to meet some people, preferably before we do the show while I'm in New York. And I'm like, great. Who would you like to meet? She said, maybe somebody from the Rockefeller family or AOC. And I was like, who the hell do you think I am? I'm great. I did a good job of putting on the air of being like some celebrity. I was like, yo, I live in Brooklyn. I don't know what you're talking about, but I love it. You just you have really high sights and you just go after it. And you set up some big meetings.
I did.
That's dope. You just don't care, do you?
Well, I actually used to care a lot.
Yeah.
And I think now I'm kind of at the point of not giving a hell.
Yeah.
I mean, if I don't ask, I'm not going to get it.
Exactly. You have to ask and you have to be able to take no. But that's what I was saying. Like when you suffer, certain types of losses and failures and owning your own bad decisions, then you get really equipped to just be like, what's the worst that can happen? They can say no. Like I've already been towards the bottom and know what that looks like and come back up. It's like, it can't, even if it's that bad again, you know what to expect.
Exactly.
Right.
I don't think it's ever going to be that bad though, because
Let's hope not.
No. I mean, I can actually lose everything. That's fine.
Right.
But I think that kind of trust that, oh my God, that was so miserable, so heartbroken. It's like, how do you actually, I mean, you promised to support female entrepreneurs. You need to live up to it. And it's really tough. Remember, we talked about how female entrepreneurs get 2.5% of funding.
Right.
The female entrepreneurs of color, 0.2%. And yet we are the ones, the females.
That's where the output is really coming from, but you're getting a minority of, not even a minority, just a crumbs of funding.
And yet, so you can actually, have you heard of the term zebra growth?
No, can't say that.
So everyone wants to be a unicorn, right? I mean, to be valued at $1 billion or a decicorn, which is 10 billion. Well, women and minorities are being pushed toward, I think, a lot more sustainable business model. It's called zebra. So basically, you're not growing by leaps and bounds, but you're growing steadily, and the business is a lot more sustainable. And I think
that's the smart way to do it.
And it's actually a lot more closer to the whole brick and mortar stuff. Because if you don't support it, it's no money is going to help you.
So I've gotten no support. I just did this all on my own. I mean, it was me and my partners. We just pulled together. It was hustle. It was hard work. Roll your sleeves up, hands in the dirt. So that's just always how I've operated. I just can't imagine people just giving you thousands, hundreds of thousands,
how about billions
of dollars.
If it happened to be a magic leap, they actually got
crazy,
3 billion.
That's insane. I can't fathom that.
Well, they sold 6,000 units, so good for them, I guess.
Yeah.
But
well,
I think it's
maybe one day we'll see, guys. I got to get that blockchain in effect though first. I can't go in the dark like that. That's insane. So what? The two companies you said, VeeSee that's nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit,
and that's on the support end of things.
So we are actually creating a way for for entrepreneurs to support each other, to create a network effect.
That's fantastic. That really is.
So due diligence, legal and mental health aid. Do you know that there are actually over 70% of us, even in the US, are reporting mental health conditions from addiction to PTSD. To suicide.
Well, I mentioned it last night, coming from the artistic background, that's a major thing there. Artists are known to be plagued.
Well, artists are entrepreneurs too.
Right, so. Exactly. They might not realize it, but you're constantly struggling with your output and you feel like you're alone and you're trying to do something that's in this uncharted territory.
And you're trying to do too much alone.
Right. You do a lot alone. But it's almost like you have no choice. It's just this thing inside of you is this burning fire, but it ends up resulting in a lot of substance abuse, depression, sometimes suicide. And I think it's great that it's being recognized now by people like yourself, and actually people are putting companies together to create these networks because it's not going away, right? The idea of entrepreneurship is only growing, and the baggage that comes along with it doesn't go away with that. Still, and I think if people are aware of it, especially coming in, for the younger generation, you're talking about kids. That are starting to take this on. It's forefront now. People are talking about it. That wasn't discussed so much whenever we were kids, I don't think. But if they have that awareness at a young age, can prevent a lot of damage.
Yes,
I don't want to stop some of the failures that I think they just need to go through. But
and they need to be mitigated by the support network.
Right. but like substance abuse and suicide, that all needs to be avoided.
And I didn't even know it was that bad until I started researching it. And my contact at World Economic Forum actually told me there's this wave of suicides, for instance, in India, specifically because of the relationship we have with our VCs.
And I think what I've found is that particularly, being a resident of the U.S., that the immigrant entrepreneur population is the big part of it, because they're hustling so hard. They just want it so bad, but they're the ones reporting the highest rates of depression and issue. Yeah. So where can people learn? We got to wrap up here. Where can people learn about your companies? So wishknish.com, and incidentally, Knish is in honor of New York. By the way, we are wishing for Knish, Coney Island one.
Nice.
And VeeSee is VeeSee, VeeSee. We see how you're suffering, and we want to help.
Nice. And that's .com?
.org.
.org. Great. Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure meeting you, and thank you for helping me, guiding me through my first LinkedIn guest series. Hopefully we'll see a lot more of that, and hopefully you and I can stay connected and
looking forward
do some cool stuff. Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
All right, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll catch up with you next week. You're listening to the Entrepreneurial Web. Peace out.